Hello, I'm Craig Houston, lead writer at Treyarch, and welcome to our very special video today where I'm going to introduce you to some exciting guests. We have Steve Bloom.
Hoorah!
We have Nolan North.
Hello.
We have Tom Kane.
Hi.
And Fred Tatasciore.
Hey, where is my vodka?
So, if it wasn't already clear, this is our wonderful Primus and Ultimus voice cast that we have enjoyed spending time with for the last 10 years. So guys, thanks for coming. I think we should just move through a little bit chronologically. The early days, World at War, over 10 years ago. Steve, I believe you might have been one of our first generic Marines, and we quickly discovered that you couldn't tell who was who. Guys, any memories of those very early days and what it was like trying to find these characters?
It was such a long time ago.
I know.
I know.
I don't think I actually spoke. Everything was yelled back then.
Hi, honey, I'm home.
That's where we started.
We
It
were
just
really
went
rowdy. I remember I was as drunk as I could be. It was like crazy. Yeah.
Those were the early defining characteristics. And at that point, the characters, it was mostly really just gameplay lines. They weren't really that invested in the story, correct?
And Maxis for me was a big thing because then I started to understand.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something that we'll definitely need to talk about a little bit later, because you're not just your regular characters and their various incarnations. But, you know, by the end of World at War, we'd really established you guys as a fun little crew, and we went into Black Ops 1, where things went a bit crazy. Do you remember getting the Earth blowing up?
Oh, the Earth. Yeah.
Blown up.
Yeah, absolutely. I just remember that Dr. Richthofen had, you kind of, I don't know, they took me off the leash, so to speak, where I was able to just turn him into
A deviant.
a deviant.
Yeah.
I think there were a lot of people who had a few of my lines as their outgoing voice messages,
I know I do.
ringtones.
Still.
And I remember there were some lines that didn't make the game that I think Treyarch and Activision employees were using.
There have been some pretty strange ad-libs along the way. But again, just starting at the beginning, you know, your characters then, they were fairly straightforward, shall we say. Tom, particularly you, Takio, what was Takio like in the early days?
Well, very cartoony.
I think that's the important thing to remember about Takio, is that everyone's character was kind of treated with the same broad strokes in the beginning.
In the beginning.
I mean, the idea of a drunk Russian, Fred, did that come easy to you?
It was very easy. It's like method, but no, it was broad strokes, and I remember we're going a little more for the comedy too.
Yep.
You know, that was a big part of it.
I think that was also a really big part of why Dempsey became so popular early on. He had a lot of the kind of, as well as badass lines, he had a lot of goofy, funny ones. You know, things about even a blind squirrel is right twice a day. Things it made
Americanism.
Stuff that made no sense at all.
Didn't make.
But that's your fault.
Yeah.
That's not my fault.
Somehow it worked.
Yeah.
I think the one that people probably remember most from Dempsey is when he broke the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And addressed the player directly.
Drop the chips. What was it? Hey, player, drop the chips and give me some ammo.
That's the one. That one's still good.
Really?
You know, when we go to conventions and stuff, people
people.
still go, that's my favourite line. And I go, so we've not done anything better in 10 years.
You have peaked, but it's okay. It's okay.
So we went through those early days of World at War and Black Ops 1, and the Earth got a bit blown up. And you guys went on a slight hiatus. We had a different crew running around on the broken world, although Richthofen was still around talking into the head of poor Samuel Storinger.
That's right, because I need the work.
And
It was
Fred
very
is,
nice that you would let me come and get in Sammy's head.
Yeah.
and you stayed there for a long time.
Yes, I did.
Of course.
You're still there, actually. And Fred, obviously, you mentioned earlier, you were Maxis. He was part of that story through Black Ops 2.
He's like the Renfield that got away. You know, my little assistant who just was like, why is he so stupid? Why is he doing this? Yeah, and it was frustrating for Max.
Well,
yes.
that kind of leads us into what we now know as Primus, because towards the end of Black Ops 2, we brought you guys back, but we brought you back in a different way, because you were in Origins, and you were in World War I, and you were dealing with giant robots and crazy stuff. But
Like
all of you guys, we just tried to ground you a little bit more and try and give you a little bit more personality. Do you want to each talk about that shift from crazy to more serious. Start with you, Steve.
It was nice having 30% more brain cells. That was,
Tell me
I
about it.
almost understood what I was talking about. It was,
Yeah.
it allowed for a little more nuance instead of everything being out here all the time. I got to actually pull it in and have real conversations. And
That was a
my
big
throat
part.
thanks you for that.
Yeah, I think we are all grateful that we don't need to shout at the same level
Yeah.
consistently.
I loved it because it was, he was, to me, he was so zany and over the top.
Yeah.
And to actually bring him back to something real. It's almost like the cartoon version, the real life version of what was cartoony came out. And some really interesting material, and which led to some great moments.
I think part of it was definitely a struggle for you at the beginning because you enjoyed being so insane. But I think what happened is particularly with the grounded Richtofen, you started to feel the kind of weight of the world on his shoulders, and I think you empathized with him in a different way.
Yeah, and I think if you're playing that same note of the zany I think that would just would tire on people.
But it did make me hate myself for loving you.
Tom, Takio, as we mentioned earlier, started off very much as a bit of a cartoon.
Oh
so
yeah, it's been just really gratifying actually to see how all of these things have evolved. I mean, even just reading their lines, and just reading the scripts, I'm like, you can see it as time has gone by. That suddenly. He's likable. There's this.
Well, don't go too
He
far.
has. Well, but I mean, but I
He's
mean,
talking about Richtofen.
yeah, right. Oh no,
not me. I know.
no. But yeah, I mean, and Takio, in many ways, I think, did evolve at least as much, maybe more so than some of the other characters, because he was so cartoony. I mean, it is same with you, but where he is now, he's a person.
Yeah.
He's got depth and he's got emotions and he's,
Just saying, Dr. Monty once said, the order in which you experience things isn't necessarily the order in which they happen, which is definitely true of our story.
yeah,
as
this game.
There you go.
Fred,
More than ever.
Just to go with the differences, we made Nikolai stop drinking,
Yes,
really, when we
yes.
made him into Primus, so that was
Absolutely.
big change.
Yeah,
Well,
it was.
you made Fred stop drinking. So.
No, that was both was hard, but I tell you, what I loved is just seeing how the characters became who they were. So for me, if it's drunk Nikolai is crazy by the time when we met him originally, it was like actually he was a fully functional soldier that had a lot of heart and a lot of pain.
Alcohol
like your
can do
guy
that, too.
follows a code. He's a real serious warrior, and you were a scientist, and you're just always
I'm a Marine.
You're
No,
a
I
Marine.
care.
Hoorah!
Hoorah.
So it was really neat to see Nikolai as a real caring guy who loved his wife horribly and misses her.
That kind of that brings us on to
not my eighth wife, all made up.
One of the most fun topics for the entirety of Black Ops 3 was the recurring theme of death. Death. As you just described, we learned a little bit more Nikolai when we went to Stalingrad to recover his soul. That was so much of it. Steve, Dempsey was the first character to go through that experience, and it was a big shock to players when they found out that they were having to kind of kill off versions of their beloved character. As much as it was a shock to
me
you as well.
I don't think I found out till that day.
It's best scenes though.
We've done that
my
a few
favorite
times.
scene.
So I mean. Nolan, we're going to talk about you in a minute.
Okay.
Because through that Black Ops 3, we pulled a little bit of a switcheroo. Richtofen was telling everyone, hey, you saw me shoot myself in the giant, I collected my soul, you've got to do all this. But we later found out that wasn't quite true. So we got the emotional scenes of Steve dying with dignity. Thank God he was asleep, otherwise he would have put up a fight. Takio, honor, very respectful, nice send-off. Poor drunk Nikolai fought till the bitter end because of all his pain. As he said, some things are forgotten for a reason. But Nolan, Richtofen kind of got out of it a little bit up until recently, because what we learned through Black Ops 3 is that he was trying to keep everyone alive by cheating Dr. Monty, and that was why you were going to be trapped in a perpetual cycle. But when it came to the map Blood of the Dead on Black Ops 4, Richtofen finally paid the price, shall we say. And I don't know if you guys ever saw the full finished version of this, because you love Richtofen so much, I thought it might be worth actually just looking at that scene again.
I wish I could tell you I was sorry, Edward. But I'm not. No. No, you can help me. You're a doctor. Wait. Don't you know who I am? I have been witness to miracles and calamities. Dimensions born and collapse. I walk a path no other can take. No! I want to be me. Someone who did all the hard work. I wanted to keep going. This is me. My slightest heart. You won't even remember.
Oh shit, dude.
Damn, you're good.
No, he's good. I remember the craziest thing about that scene is the fan reaction. I think the last time we went,
my next question.
there were, I think, I saw it blow up on Twitter and different social media, and I think when next session I saw you, we pulled up all these things where people were like crying. It was like, I was the nicest one, and you won't even remember me. And it was just this, and it was we talk about the evolution of a character, just where people, I mean, he's zany, ridiculous, over the top, to something that can actually, have that emotional response to people. So I was like, wow, that was, I mean, and kudos to you. It was really well written. Really, it was fantastic. So
You should do this for a living.
you should.
I'm actually thinking of getting into a little bit of voice acting.
Well, he's not bad at that.
No,
he
that's
does
what
all
people
of our
don't understand.
voices.
He can do
He
everybody.
does all
one
of
of
our
ours.
voices. Yeah.
It's very good. You don't even need us.
No, I do. You're
I
so
said
much
that on
better.
camera. Did I just say that on camera?
You did.
Actually, hang on, can we just... No, so I mean, talking about fans, Steve, did you get a similar reaction when people saw what happened to that incarnation of Dempsey?
I did. I'm still a little verklempt from what I just saw, but yes, I did. It was disturbing and profound and very unexpected, I think, and for me personally and for the fans.
Tom,
Yeah.
you I know for a fact that having the two Takios speak the amount that they did,
Yes.
that was probably the biggest dialogue sequence between an old and a new version of Primus and Ultimus.
No, it was. I've done a lot of different things, but rarely have I done a specific scene that people reference. They come up to me. I mean, I'll be signing something for another character at another event, and they want to talk about Takio. I'm like, well, I'm not here to. They don't care. They want to talk about that scene.
Yep.
So yeah.
Fred?
Yeah, same thing.
Same thing.
The whole dialogue between what Nikolai says to Nikolai.
Yeah.
Like that you are beyond this. You're too much pain.
I think the thing that really made it for me work for me is, how we were saying earlier, so much of it early on was humor and just jokes, and the character's not super in depth. So to manage to get to that point where you're actually making people care on that level was something I'm immensely proud of. Everyone on the whole.
Yeah, it was my favorite
Yes.
thing to do. It was my favorite thing to do, practically.
It's a huge compliment to all of us.
Yeah. And again, the fans just really responded to that. They always bring it up. It's amazing. Always.
You can never tell exactly what things are going to resonate because, something we've talked about is it's over 10 years we've been doing that. I reckon each of you, as your respective characters, must have done over 15,000 lines just as those characters.
Probably.
So when people say, hey, do you have a favourite line? You've got a lot to choose from and your memory recall is probably not even going to allow you to.
No.
Yeah.
But that's why I think it does resonate so much with the fans, because if they've sat through 15,000 lines, they've spent immense amounts of time with us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
With
that's
you.
true.
So
And rarely do you get to explore a character that way of having two of you.
Yeah.
Talking to each other. You get a real interesting look at what that person's soul is.
I mean, that's always the challenge, because so many of the lines are based around categories of, like, you know, you get a particular gun or you kill a zombie, and trying to find new ways after all this time. I'm amazed that it's not harder than it is for all of us, and I think it shows the love that we all have for these characters. Monkey bombs were always a favourite character.
Still the
I love
monkey
monkey
lines.
bombs. Yeah.
He just keeps on smiling, but he goes. He knows he's going to go boom.
That's why he is
I'm gonna miss you,
courageous.
little monkey.
Yeah.
He is like Soviet bear.
There's a few of them stick in my mind. One of yours that I think I said at a launch event the other year was, "Remember your training, monkey, and you'll be fine."
See, I don't need to be.
See, and it's like
Nikolai had that wasn't a real monkey, was it?
Because he has sort of Stockholm syndrome with it. He
Sounds like a
hates the
Russian
monkey.
Dempsey.
He hates the monkey, and then by the end, he's like,
It all
"The monkey
devolves.
died well."
Yeah.
Lived
I have
courageous.
fans at different conventions, things that tell me that they will purposely drop like a gun just so they can hear Richtofen say, "It's stabby time" with the knife. He would find a knife. And the other one I always liked was the monkeys and then the box.
Yeah.
Why do you
box.
torture me, box? When he would give him
the
something
box is
terrible.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was like originally slated just as maybe just a one-off, see how it was
Yeah.
going to
Yeah,
be.
pretty
and
much.
here we are 10 years later.
It has everything in it.
It's like people really like it, which is a great position to be in. I mean, something else that I think people know, you're mentioning earlier, Fred, you guys play a lot more than just your regular characters in these games as well. I mean, Fred, you mentioned Dr. Maxis, he's been one of the constants.
He's how I've understood what was happening.
That's
actually.
true, because he's very much...
He's Basil Exposition.
can you
You know,
say it to me?
now this
These
is
guys
another
never
dimension we
read
will find, and then Richtofen will go through it. You know, like yes,
Yeah.
You know, that's actually works out in a good way because, you know, you never want to give away story. You
Yeah.
never want to tweet something or say something in an interview. I have no idea over the last decade what the hell's going on.
No,
Me neither.
same here.
And it's saved me from making
There's
a terrible
pack
mistake.
a punch machine. You know, yeah, right. Yeah, no.
Juggernog.
yeah.
Oh, see, that's I love the Juggernaut.
I love Juggernaut. Suck that stuff down.
So good.
Just take a tug on the Juggernaut.
I don't remember that line.
No, it says it on the cooler.
Why does that sound
Oh,
dirty?
right, okay.
It does.
Because sometimes
I didn't
the
make
lines,
this up. They did it.
sometimes the lines we come up with are already in a pretty dangerous place.
Yeah.
Sure.
And some of the ad-libs, Nolan, you know, you make us edit a
I
lot.
plead
You?
the, I
That's
plead,
shocking.
I plead the fifth.
I am shocking.
Can't
I am
imagine.
shocking.
one-
Give me a
This
deviant
moment.
German and you don't expect me to ad-lib?
That's good.
Do you know what? One
it
of my
doesn't.
favorite things, I guess you can consider it an ad lib, is the fact, and you let this go. Probably early in recording, I always called him Takeo.
Yeah.
Yes.
And everybody, Takeo. And I met people say, you know his name's Takeo, right, Takeo. And they're like, Takeo. And we would, and I remember Craig was like, no, let him say it the way he wants to say it.
Yeah.
Oh, who says Richtofen then? I don't know.
Richtofen is not
Just
for
you.
everyone.
Someone says Richtofen.
Ask your
Just
doctor
you.
about Richtofen.
Richtofen may call.
Side effects may include
death.
explosive
So-
diarrhea and monkey bombs.
Nationalism. Yeah, right.
I mean, obviously,
I was going to go with anal leakage. And he went with
nationalism.
nationalism. Much smarter.
I was literally going to ask you if you have any memorable moments of recording, any funny bloopers or anything, but then I just realized this is actually you just doing what you do
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
studio right now.
Yeah.
It's always been fun, hasn't it?
There was
it's a
one.
blast.
There was one
Oh,
session.
we love it.
There was one session years ago where Tom wasn't available, but
Yep.
they made the terrible mistake. It happened once and
Yes.
only
Yes.
once, where they put the three of us in, and I think that's the first time I may have ad-libbed this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he said something. He said like, "All right, Dictofen," like that, and I said something. "I hate you, Dempsey."
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, and that became a recurring.
That is a thing.
Yeah.
So I will sign pictures that like, I hate you, Dempsey.
At conventions, we'll be signing down the row from each other, and invariably one of the fans will come up with a poster that says, "I hate you, Dempsey," and I have to sign right after that. Right back at you.
Each map we usually do probably like 3 sessions, I think, but for Alpha Omega, where you were both Ultimus and Primus, we did a lot more. That was a big challenge. Steve, do you remember that session? That was a fun session, wasn't it?
Thousands and thousands of lines. Going
Yes.
back and forth between Ultimus and Primus was
Yep.
a really interesting challenge.
It's great to do that.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
I thought it was so much fun.
It was
Yeah.
so much fun. But all of us in the room had trouble sorting that out and keeping that separate.
Oh no,
I didn't.
I have such crappy short-term memory.
So which one's this? Which one's
seriously, from like one page to the next, I'm like, okay, wait, prime, and I finally said, just say new or old.
Oh.
New or old. Just new Takio, old Takio.
But then
Mine was
Drunk
straight or
Nikolai.
zany. It was like straight. Is this straight or crazy? Straight or crazy?
Yeah.
That was drunk or sober. Yeah, and it was a switch, and literally my body changes. Like if I am the sober one, this is like I'm very up in here, and Drag's always got to lean back.
Yeah.
I'm always off center when I have to do the one. You know, like,
and
it's
mine
like-
was just loud and louder.
yeah.
It's funny now that we're talking about this because this is something that I think we've used a couple of times. Most of you are quite fond of doing some of them, some impersonations of the others. Fred, who's your go-to?
I
Other
enjoy
than-
my friend right here.
Oh no, and I always find some excuse to read one of his lines if
We're always
it's
talking.
feeding into me or
Right.
vice versa.
It
'Cause-
is not honorable.
Yeah,
but
no,
yes.
we all do
And
that.
so you do
Nikolai, drunk Russian.
I can't remember, who did you, we know you love.
No, I
making
always like
fun
doing
of
you,
it.
Craig.
Yeah, I know.
We all like doing you,
Craig.
We like doing
We
Craig.
love
like
doing
that.
you, Craig.
No,
As a matter of
I like
fact,
doing
out of
Craig.
character.
I did like Dempsey just because a lot of times it was, the order sometimes Dempsey's lines, and like you said, you'd read some of their lines, and just some of the stuff he got to say, like, just meat, and he would say that, all right, meat bag. And now Steve has always been. I can't even do it. It's like I keep saying he was like born with like a lit cigar in his trachea.
Yeah, he's got he's got that FM DJ
shoe glass and
bottom
scream
end.
at
It's
children.
always,
Yeah.
it's always the joke I have about you too, because like the nicest man with like the scariest one. I got you like a fish. Yeah, the kids and I are going to yoga camp. But like really hardcore.
See, that's why I always like reading your lines because there's almost always something just hilariously funny.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Delicious.
because Talk never gets that.
Yeah.
Takio never gets the hilarious, funny stuff
I
because
don't
he's
know.
Mr. Serious. But then you get, he's like, I want to do that line.
This weapon has no honor.
No,
It's
that's
pretty
right.
good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
You know, I gotta tell you
When
something.
you don't
but
understand
forget,
something, it's
forget
great,
about
you know?
what we do. We all know that you can do all of
Yes.
this.
Yes.
Yep.
So, as well as the writer, it should be put on record that he's incredibly.
When I was a child, I had to scavenge for food.
Oh, wow.
Not because I was hungry, but because I was greedy.
That was
true.
where some of the best Nikolai lines were in the Stalingrad map, where you were collecting his soul. Because there was also another one I remember when you get the gobble gums. Nikolai said,
In Russia, chewing gum comes only in one flavor: wood.
Okay, but like, you know what? Seriously, that's my favorite. This is all out of
choose.
your mind.
Yes.
I mean,
it's
we
not
picture,
just me. We've got
we
a whole
picture you
team.
sitting there,
That happens.
just
Laughing
just,
hysterically.
just typing and laughing
And we're
and
like-
just.
And when you're not there,
endless
I'm like,
nights.
Craig, what? Yeah.
Oh,
seen
there
him
have
do it
been a
every
few
6
ones
months.
where a script has come in so late that, and I've not even been at the session. You guys are like, I don't know what this is. This sentence doesn't even feel complete.
Yeah.
My favorite moments in the booth are when a line is funny that you've done, and I'll find some, read it, do a couple takes, and then try to find a way that there's no way he ever heard it in his head this way,
Yeah.
and see if I can get you to laugh.
it's
and
a
I
big
would
deal.
be sitting there, I'd say something, and you'd laugh and go,
That's
and
the
you could
one.
see it through the glass, him going,
Yeah.
that's the one.
We're going to keep that one.
Best audience ever.
That's a keeper.
Right.
Towards the end, though, we were in such a time crunch that you were probably not sleeping for weeks.
And
there-
never quite that bad, but it's just
But,
sustained.
but there were occasions where the line before I'd even get to the line, you'd just be giggling to yourself in the room.
Yeah.
So what? And you
knew
go,
it
oh,
was
this
coming.
line is so great.
It's because I
It's
forget
great."
them.
It was
I know.
It's like as soon as the
giggle.
But it was every
Yeah.
single time. It was so great.
The,
yeah.
the script for Alpha Omega, which was obviously the one that starred both Ultimus and Primus, it's insane. It's
phone
like
book.
that was huge. So I mean that kind of brings us on to the fact that Tag der Toten, which we've just released, is the kind of it's the end of the line for Primus and Ultimus. Without going into spoilers,
I can't accept that.
there's always
I
another
need a job,
Dempsey.
Craig. What are you telling me?
Well,
These things happen. Worlds
Give
end
me
all
some
the
time to think. Give me some time to think. But no, it's definitively, people that saw the huge timeline of multi-dimensions, these characters have been running out of road for a little while, shall we say, especially with what they're trying to do and trying to escape the cycle and everything like that. So
If
did
this
have
is
to
truly
come to
the end, it's one of the most bittersweet things I can think
know.
of. This has been one of my favorite jobs I've ever had, and just this character is one of my favorites. I actually, one time I took my mom to a session because I had to get her to the airport. There was no time to get her back and forth. To this day, she answers the phone. She's like, "Oh, is this the doctor?" She does the voice too.
Oh, that's
And
great.
it was one of the, and it was. I mean, we didn't hold back either. No, we're both barrels.
It's kind of become a traditional greeting between a lot of the zombie team members when we walk past to each other in the hallway. We go, "Doctor, doctor." Oh, hello. This is how Richter met himself.
That's great.
Yeah, Tom, thoughts? Last 10 years.
Well, I'm not as big a part of the game industry as these guys are. Part of it is just I don't have the vocal stamina to do all the screaming and dying and stuff, and that's kept me out of a lot of games. But with this, I didn't care. I'm like, I will do this forever if they'll have me. So, thank you.
Yeah, every time, like you said, Nolan, I remember when we got to the end of, it would have been Revelations, I guess, and I was like, you're like, so when we back? And I was like, I don't know. And you were like, when we back? I'm like, I don't know. And you were like, can you just send me some lines so that I can at least keep the character alive?
Yeah, and you know, and it's important to, you know, everybody's working. It's like, it's fine, but this is one of those jobs that you're like, doing this has been so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it really, really has. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd all be in a room together. I mean, but I don't know if we'd ever get anything
We
done.
probably wouldn't. No, it'd be like this.
It would exactly be like this.
But it is truly been a privilege and an honor to be part of this because it's become. You know, I love the fact that it was just the little little engine that could. You know that it wasn't even an engine. It was just the caboose that somebody threw onto the game.
And this will be fun. This will be fun for a game. You know.
You know, it's like
Cans that trail
weird
behind
part
the
of
I
it.
don't want to do this voice in any other place.
Okay.
No,
How about every 3 months, whether we need to or not, we just go to a restaurant and just be our characters and him, and people will be go, what the hell?
Let's just come back here and have good food here.
Hold on, I'm actually into that.
It's a great idea.
that would
I think
definitely,
that's
That would go.
that
an
would
awesome
definitely
idea.
work.
There have been very, very few projects that I've been willing to scream at this level, extended for not just.
And that was just because you were angry at me.
Just because I was angry at you, yeah. But there's a purpose to everything that we did in this, and it played so well, and there was so much heart to it, even in the most ridiculous moments. Yeah. And
there's been many.
Yeah, there have been many.
But I think that's what made it so great for fans. Is there was something for everybody.
There was something for everybody, and then we see a moment like that where you're facing your own mortality. I hadn't seen that until
No, I
today.
hadn't either.
And it kind of broke me. It
Yeah.
was really hard for me to speak after that. I care about these
No, it's
characters,
true.
and I'm not even a player.
Yeah, we
So-
care. You end up caring about the characters.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happens, and the fans do too. So it has been a huge honor, and it's. It runs deep. We would have done anything. We'd do anything for this game. You know what I mean?
And seriously, thank you to you. You created this world.
As I
These
say, it's
guys.
a whole team. It's a whole
No,
team.
but you know, each of us have our own little craziness. All of them are in your head.
Yeah,
which is terrifying.
you said that to me when we
Layers.
finished the
There's
last
somebody
session. You said, we are all living inside your head.
Yeah.
We all occupy rental space and there's
terrifying.
nothing you can do about it.
Terrifying.
Well, guys, thank you so much.
Thank
this
you.
has been a lot of fun. Is there anything you want to say just to the fans as we wrap up and bid our fond farewells?
Man.
I just want to say thank you so much to all of you who have played and been part of our world. You have suffered and rejoiced with us. Thank you for sharing vodka. Thank you for fighting so well. And may goodness be to your soul. Do svidaniya. You fight like good Russian bear.
You know, over 10 years, this has become part of our lives, and thanks for letting us be part of yours.
I didn't know you were going to do that.
I know. I thought we were doing characters. Beautiful.
Yes, thank you so much for letting us into your homes. The crazy characters we have, and then the Ultimus, whichever ones they are. But we really appreciate it. It's been an absolute blast. And the doctor finds you all delicious. And one last thing, I hate you, Dempsey.
Thanks for letting me scream at you for 10 years, gutbags!
You see what I mean? He's just abhorrible.
It's hard to scream when I'm crying. Thank you guys for an amazing journey. And I guess for the last time, hoorah.
Thank you for joining us today. Really hope you enjoyed getting some insight from our beloved cast. Thank you so much again for staying with us over these last 10 years. And whatever the future may bring, we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.